Hey there. I'm seeing Mike and I'm seeing Carol. How are you both? Good to see you. I'm opening
Uh,
up the meeting,
I'm
but
I'm well.
oh, good, Mike. Carol is probably used to this with some of SJC's meetings, but we never get started on time. It's typically about a 5 minute wait after the hour. So what I'm going to do is just grab myself a cup of tea and I'll be right back. Okay with you? I will be right back.
Hey, Mike.
Hello.
Hello. So I'm with Wild Ones. We're a national nonprofit that promotes native plants.
Very cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Promotes native plants in what way?
Um, our mission is to educate people about the value of native plants and its importance in sustaining our biodiversity. So it's mainly education. We do. We have like 11,000 members across the country with chapters all across the country. And it's similar to what the Native Plant Society does here in New Jersey. In fact, I collaborate with Lorraine Sweeney a lot of that chapter, of that Native Plants chapter. Co-wrote the Native Plant Ordinance for Jersey City.
Cool.
Yeah, it was big. It was a big deal for us because we never wrote an ordinance before. And yeah, we were really happy with that. So it's supporting the efforts that the sustainability department is now trying to achieve in its endeavors to get grant monies to, um, you know, work on our environmental issues. Yeah. So, so it's nice, and I hear such good things about you. Um,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, you really, I think, yeah, people really are impressed and happy with what you're doing and your communication with people, community like this tonight. Um, and yeah, um, here comes the team. Andrew's coming on.
So, in regards to the native plants and biodiversity, is that more of like a interaction, like maybe ecologically with pollinators and wildlife, or is it mostly plant focused? Meaning, like, what is the goal because you want to increase biodiversity in terms of native insects and things like that as well, or is it more like just plant focused? And then secondarily, is it more focused on natural areas or maybe even like parks, or is it just all in general?
Oh, no. So certainly, the mission is to educate people about our severely declining biodiversity. And and we follow the thoughts and methodology and experience and studies that Doug Tallamy, who's a well-known entomologist, has discovered. And so basically, we're trying to get people to just put native gardens in their backyards, in urban areas. That's all we have, or maybe we'll have a terrace if you live in an apartment. Yeah, just to get anybody and everywhere to start using natives.
Mike, to the extent that, uh, you probably heard that there was a presentation on Monday evening. Carol was there too, by the
Right.
city for the green infrastructure installation that's going to provide for 40 trees at Jackson Hill Main Street on MLK. Right, what Amanda mentioned, which I wasn't aware of, is that there are native, there are native plantings going into tree pits.
Hmm.
Are you guys doing that, or how is that being
What do
implemented?
you mean by that exactly? I don't believe that
I
that's
was
happened.
I was asking you.
I
So
don't no, yeah, I don't think that that has specifically happened yet. However, it's not. It could be encouraged, right? Like it would be like a stewardship thing for a property owner if they wanted to plant something in their tree bed. If as long as it's not going to outcompete the tree, we would be in support of that. But I don't think that that's happened yet anywhere. I do know around Van Voorst Park, the MUA had done a big project down there, and they redid the sidewalks and they created these bump outs that were planted with native wild gardens that were fenced in, but it wasn't in conjunction with a tree bed. It was like totally separate.
Yeah, it was a rain garden.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I
yeah, no,
think
I was asking specifically about tree beds.
trees. Yeah.
No, I mean that, and from my perspective, that would be cool if a homeowner wanted to do that. They as long as they touch base with us and make sure that whatever they're putting in the ground is not going to be, competing with the tree. I would be all for that. When I worked in New York City, that was like something we considered great. It was like signs of stewardship. Someone kind of taking a little bit of ownership of maintaining the tree bed in a way that was nice. So
So
yeah,
the
I'm
last
for
time
that.
that I looked at the forestry standards, sort of planting in tree beds was not allowed. Has that been changed?
I don't remember anywhere specifically in the forestry standards where it says that it is or isn't forbidden. However, anything
Yeah.
that you do in a tree bed, you should get a permit for, in which case it would come to me and then I can decide, is that going to be harmful? Is that going to go against standards or not? I haven't had anybody come to me asking about that, but
Mm.
anytime anybody has asked about planting in a tree bed, it's okay if you're doing things that are shallow rooted, that are not going to outcompete the tree. Native is great. Doesn't I wouldn't limit it to native. I don't know if that would go afoul of the native plant ordinance, so maybe that's something to think about. But I really haven't come across anybody asking to do that anyway. At this point.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I think what we can do, I just want to take a check here. We have 10 people on the call, including you and Andrew. So why don't we,
Everyone.
hey, Andrew, I just want to quickly, introduce you guys and then
Mhm.
ask people in the room to introduce themselves. So folks, can share with each other who else is in the room. We don't always have a chance to do that, but so that you, Andrew, and Mike know who's in the room as well. So my co-host, Megan Santasoso, who is the chair of the Green Committee for the Journal Square Community Association, is juggling caretaking for her young son with her husband out of town. So she's going to join late. She's been great to work with. The Journal Square Community Association and SJC, and I'm the founder of SJC, started working together on hosting this monthly Zoom call a couple years ago. And what we have done is host a variety of topics, sustainability topics relevant to Jersey City and the region, including evenings like this evening, where we host city officials and staff to catch up with, some of what they're doing. So that's me. Carol, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, okay. Where am I? Okay, I'm not muted. Yeah, Carol McNichol. I'm a board member of Wild Ones NJ Gateway here in Jersey City. Wild Ones is a national nonprofit with a mission of educating communities about our declining biodiversity and making the encouragement of people to plant native plants in their regions, their ecoregions. We have 11,000 members across the country and growing. And I'm here in Jersey City. I work a lot with the New Jersey Native Plant Society, state, the Hudson chapter. And myself and Lorraine Greeny co-wrote the native plant ordinance that the council passed last April. So we were very happy to get that going. And it's been great because it's a sort of a model ordinance that the sustainability department is now using in some of its grant proposals to secure funding for large projects that, will work in further endeavors to help the environment. So we're happy about that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you
Mhm.
very much. Devin?
Hey everyone, Devin Taylor. I am a volunteer on Deb's team. I'm leading some of our corporate social responsibility outreach to businesses in Jersey City, and leading some fundraising efforts around the 2 running events that we host in the fall and the winter months. And professionally, I've worked in and around where sustainability meets the investment world on Wall Street. So been learning a lot about all the great local efforts as a Jersey City resident here.
Cool. Kevin, good to see you again. How are you?
Hey Deb, good to see you.
Good.
I am Kevin Bing. I live in the Journal Square area. I was a former president of the Journal Square Community Association. And relevant fact, in 2018 or 2019, I think it was, the city dug a new tree pit and planted a tree in front of my house. It's been doing good. We've been taking care of it. I hope I didn't break any rules. I did put some native seeds in there, but they haven't taken, so there's no competition at this point.
Okay. And what are you doing these days that you're leaning in on this particular conversation? Are you doing any advocacy work for urban forestry in Jersey City?
Not specifically around that, but it's a topic that I want to keep abreast of, especially now that we have a forester. I know that was vacant for a few years, so just
Yeah.
wanted to kind of get an update on it.
Good, because we need you in the game.
Yeah, people come to me with questions and I like to have answers, right?
Yeah,
So
as you should. So, Gail, nice to see you. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Yeah, hi, I'm Gail. I'm a resident of the Heights. I'm a member of Hudson County Tree Allies. I'm just interested in sustainability topics and tree health. I also volunteer with Pershing Field Garden Friends and Ogden's End Community Garden. And love
Right. Fabulous. We launched with the Hudson County Tree Allies group the second Monday of each month, a Zoom call focused on educating the public about urban forestry. It's called Community Forestry Matters. So we're talking about all things trees. If people are interested in that, they can tune into our event calendar and register. Similar to this evening, you need to register to get the Zoom link. Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Sporn. I am a landscape architect. I live in the Heights and I'm on the board of Sustainable Jersey City, and I am their representative on the Shade Tree Committee. And I'm on the board of Jersey City Reservoir Alliance. And so, I'm an advocate for green stuff and trees and all that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of green tree stuff.
Also, I worked for government in New York City and state government for over 30 years. So I have a lot of history with working on making things happen in the context of a bureaucracy. I don't mean it necessarily in the negative way, but in the context of, you know, figuring out
Municipal
how to
and
work
state
the
government.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also want to say that Mike has been, I just have to put in my fan club for Mike, who has brought just the best thinking and experience to Jersey City. And I am just very, very grateful for his presence and his wisdom and knowledge. So
Yeah.
I have to say that because it takes so much devotion to get something done in Jersey City, and we don't see a lot of that. That kind of heart and soul going into what people are doing. So I am very grateful.
Here, here.
That was very kind of you, Heather. I appreciate that.
It's not kind of me. It's just the truth.
Susan. Hello.
Hi, my name is Susan. I just saw like 2 hours ago that you were having this meeting, and I said, "Oh, trees!" So I came to hear what you're doing. I do have a friend who said she got no response about trees in her area, and so I would like to mention that. And also, the tree in front of this apartment building was chopped off at the, it's a stump now. And I don't know if we can do anything about that. But
Where do you live, Susan?
83 Fairview Avenue,
What neighborhood is that?
near McGinley Square.
Okay. And that
no.
address one more time, because I know Mike is making notes about this stuff.
83 Fairview Avenue.
Okay.
I live on
Okay.
Jewett, so that's pretty close. I could probably check that out when I walk my dog later.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And a friend, I don't have the address in my mind right now, but it's farther in the southern part of the city, in an area where I know that you've done some tree census. And she called and they need trees in the area, and she didn't get a call back, I guess. So I will try and get that to you. What's the best way I should do that?
Andrew Fenwick, who's on the call, is
Yeah,
actually the best
I'm-
person to talk to about that. So we'll button that up for you.
Yeah, and at the end of the presentation, I have my contact information. So, if you want, it's just also it's A Fenwick. So the
Yeah.
at jcnj.org. If you just want to shoot me an email too. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then I think we have one more person on. It's the identification is CERC, C-E-R-C. Who would that be? Hello, CERC, C-E-R-C. Okay, let's go on.
Hi there. Yeah, you mentioned CRC. Hello. I was not sure if my audio is audible. I was not able to, speak. I don't know if you can hear me, but
Now we can hear you, yes.
yeah, my name is Yasmin. Nice to meet all of you. Um,
Where do
I
you live, where do you live in Jersey City?
Just a city by German Square.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, a little bit late for the meeting, I guess, but I was trying to enter into the Zoom. I just sent a chat saying the same. So, yeah, I'm excited to hear from all of you and know how the committee would be, be learning to do green and repays. It's nice stuff.
So CERC is a new nonprofit in Jersey City. What is CERC about?
Say that again.
You wrote in the chat that CERC, C-E-R-C, is a new nonprofit in Jersey City.
Yes, it is. Because
What is
you
it?
mentioned CRC and I said, yes, I'm the one who's from there. So yeah, we try to help the poor and individual people, especially who have lost job during COVID, and very poor people as well, less people. And we have seen quite a number of people increase, especially after COVID. Such people around the Journal Square area were not so many. Before that, I guess, I don't know if you've noticed. But yeah, we are yet to do the network with all the community and the resources. But we do refer them to the shelters and stuff. But some of them have been there, but they don't like to be there because one lady, elderly, she had some heart issues and she got mobbed there, her mobile and purse was taken. So she's scared to go back there, the homeless shelters and stuff like that.
So it sounds like we're probably going to hear more about CERC
Yeah.
in the future. Okay, so that I think is, thank you, Yasmin. So just as an opportunity, and Natalie is just joining. After she introduces herself, I'll introduce our guest. Hello, Natalie. We just went through a round of introduction. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, sure. I'm Natalie. I live in Jersey City, in the Wales section. I'm an active and the founding member of Hudson County Tree Allies. We are a community group, like a grassroots community group that's focused on preserving the mature trees that we have in our community as much as possible, especially if the only reason for removing them is one of development. And working on changing the ordinance to that effect, and a couple other projects of that nature. And we're excited to be working and collaborating with Sustainable Jersey City and other folks. And if folks want to join us, we can put our Instagram handle in the chat.
Yeah, I had to introduce the fact that we're now hosting a monthly meeting on the second Monday night of each month. So folks who are on this call get notification of that. So I want to introduce our guests, Andrew Fenwick, who is the program manager in the sustainability division for the city of Jersey City. Andrew, I'm not sure if you have a longer title than that. I know a main focus of yours is urban forestry. You could further introduce yourself when I hand this over to you. And then, of course, Forester Mike is on the line joining Andrew as well this evening. He's the director of forestry. The forestry division is under a different umbrella. Sustainability lives under the infrastructure department. Forestry division lives under DPW. And there's been intense collaboration since Mike and Andrew arrived in the city on behalf of urban forestry in Jersey City, which we're going to hear all about tonight. So Andrew, you take it away.
Okay, thanks, Deb. And great to see a bunch of familiar faces. For some reason, my camera is not working. I was practicing earlier and it worked for me then, but I don't know what's up now. But
Murphy's Law.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Andrew Fenwick. I am the sustainability manager for Jersey City. I've worked with the city for about 2 years now. I've worked really closely with Mike over in forestry during that whole time, and everything I learned about urban forestry has been through Mike. So I'm really glad for that opportunity, and I found I was very passionate about urban forestry. So and planning to take my ISA certification in the spring. So soon I'll be one of the other arborists for the city. Just with Deb, just going off with what Deb was saying. Oh wait, also can I share my screen?
Please, I think you're free to do that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
No, that's not it.
There are a few other folks. We just don't have time to continue the round of introductions. We're going to dive into this if we have time at the end. Other folks who didn't introduce themselves, I'll circle back to you. You good, Andrew?
If this works. Yeah, just trying it out. Trying to do it where we can do my whole screen on here. But
I think it's very visible. So
yeah.
You're okay.
Just bear with me 1 second, guys. There we go.
Now you just made it smaller.
No. I promise I know how computers work.
Yeah, so leave it there. It's good.
Okay. Okay, so what Deb was saying, I'm Andrew Fenwick, the sustainability manager for Jersey City. The division of sustainability is part of the Department of Infrastructure for Jersey City. So our Director Patel, she manages the divisions of sustainability, architecture, engineering, traffic engineering, transportation planning, sustainability, and innovation. And all of us are together are kind of worked on improving all the infrastructure for the city that is in the public right of way. So that's with our roads, our streets, and sustainability managing our tree planting program is kind of a way of Jersey City's managing the trees as part of our public infrastructure, as one of the city's assets. So that's kind of where I work in all of this. Before working for Jersey City, I did AmeriCorps environmental education. And before all that, I've also worked in different forms of government. This is my first role ever really working in urban forestry. So it's been really great to learn a lot the last 2 years. And like I said earlier, I learned a lot from Mike and I owe a lot to him. And really grateful that Mike, who was in charge of the tree planting program in New York City, taught me, how to manage a tree planting contract. So very grateful for that. So yes, the Division of Sustainability oversees a lot of the sustainability initiatives for Jersey City. We work with a lot of local nonprofits like SJC, Wild Ones. So, and we kind of just want to make sure we, make our homes and our communities more sustainable, plan for the future. We're all dealing with climate change. How do we adapt for it? We kind of have 3 main plans that kind of guide us in the work that we do. The first one being the Climate Energy Action Plan, which came out in 2021 through a lot of community involvement. Deb was involved with it. Probably some other ones here were also involved with it. And it kind of breaks down the 3 main goals that Jersey City kind of wants to be focused on in making our homes more sustainable. They split it up in energy, transportation, land use, and wastes. We've done a lot in the transportation land use part of that plan. We're still working to kind of do a lot of the energy and waste parts, but we are focused on that. One of the other plans is our Energy Savings Improvement Plan, our ESIP, which was like a $15 million investment to kind of make energy improvements all across the city and all our lighting.
You either froze or you gapped. It's an effort to do what? If you can repeat that.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Or
yes.
Okay. So yeah, our energy savings improvement plan was a big investment that was made to kind of update all of our municipal buildings, to update our HVAC energy efficiency, put solar panels on some of our buildings. That's like a plan that our division oversees and implements. And then the Resilient Northeastern New Jersey Action Plan, which is a state plan that basically Jersey City, Hoboken, Bayonne, and Newark kind of work together and collaborate on kind of resiliency projects, just because we're all right next to each other. We're looking at it as a bigger level and a way to kind of collaborate to bring state investment in. And that's more of a resiliency plan. These are all public plans. You can find these on our website. And these are kind of the plans that guide us into our work. We just don't, pick and choose what sort of programs we really want to do. We have these programs that also have timelines that we all try to follow, and they just guide us.
So these were difficult to find on the website. When you say you could find these plans on the website, where would that be?
I believe if you go on the Jersey City's website, and if you go to the Division of Sustainability's page, there should be a tab that says resiliency planning. And I think in the resiliency planning tab, they should have these plans.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And also at the end of this, I'm going to have my contact information. And if any of the folks here just have any other questions or just need to get any information, I'm happy to do that for them.
Okay. And soon to be added to this plan is the community management forestry plan, right? Community
Yes.
forestry management plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll get into that in a little bit too.
Cool.
Cool. So yes. So I want to start off as kind of the accomplishments. We're at the end of 2024. So looking back at the year of, everything we've kind of done. I'll work my way from the left, but so over on the left, you kind of see a tree planting. That's what it looks like when we're planting a tree. It's kind of an active construction site. We cut the cement, and then we have to excavate. They remove the cement, they dig like 2 feet down, and then we plant a tree, and we have to pick the right tree for the right location. Sometimes you see the big trees in Jersey City, like all like in crazy shapes and forms because there's power lines going through there. We try to, plan. Nowadays, we're trying to plan, like, make sure that small trees go under wire and larger trees are not under wire. So there's a method to the madness, as much as sometimes it doesn't seem like that. But yes, and this past year, we've had a new tree planting contract and tree purchasing contract. In the past, many of you probably have seen it. There's been gnarly, crazy tree plantings. We no longer have that contractor. We have a whole new contractor, Downs, which is very great. They're very responsive. They're very professional. They might work a little slower, but that's more quality in their work, which we're very happy with.
And the name of that contractor one more time, Andrew?
Downs Tree Service.
Okay, great.
And then we've planted over like 200 trees this past year. And that would be in collaboration of our office. Mike's crew in Forestry also helps us plant at trees in parks or at schools or on any sort of lawn strips, because we work with a very small budget and we definitely try to do the best we can with the small budget that we have. And having Mike's crew help us definitely lowers the costs. So that's ways how we collaborate really closely with our offices together. And it's been a very great collaboration, and we're able to plant, way more trees. Like this fall, we're planting 20 trees with just Mike's division. So we're very grateful for him and his staff. And then in the middle, I have this is all the green infrastructure we've been kind of done this year. This year was kind of big with green infrastructure for our office. We also do a lot of, and when I mean by green infrastructure, I mean kind of in the public right of way. Trees can be known as green infrastructure, but also, bioswales, rain gardens, ways that kind of absorb water because, make sure that there's less rainfall kind of flooding our streets, going into our sewers, and helping also clean and filter that water as well. We constructed rain gardens in Bergen Square, so that's close to Journal Square. Maybe you guys have seen it. That's something that our office worked with the Department of Infrastructure on. We updated some of the green infrastructure installments on West Side and Fulton, which were a previous green infrastructure installment from years ago. Didn't really work out. We're kind of learning, we're learning how to do and implement this process in a better way. We have to get better with our maintenance of our green infrastructure. We're now, because of Director Patel, we're kind of working together with our MUA and other city agencies to be able to have a better maintenance plan. But those are some things that we've been working on. And then also, I don't know if there's no folks here from downtown, but we planted a native plant garden in our curb bump outs on the Jersey Ave in York, right by Van Voorst Park. And that's been very popular. And you go by there now and you see different butterflies and bees, and it's really great. And we're planning to do this. This has been very kind of successful for us, and we want to do it in the future. Now on the right-hand side, I know it's just numbers and words, and that's boring. Everyone wants photos for a presentation, but this is probably my most exciting part. And I say our biggest accomplishments for this year is we have been able to accept and been awarded several grants totaling close to $5 million, just focusing on tree plantings and other programs we're looking to do in Jersey City. I don't have to go through, there's like all these acronyms, but we have like a state one, water quality restoration grant, which Deb mentioned earlier that we had this meeting on Monday, and that's on focusing on Martin Luther King Drive, and that's making more rain gardens and bioswales and just green infrastructure installments with trees on MLK, which is a long stretch of street with very little trees in a historically disadvantaged community. So, and a lot of these other grants are all focused on MLK and the surrounding areas as well, planting trees. So this is kind of a huge investment. We're very excited for it. It's, a huge undertaking. And it's just going to be like something that the city really hasn't done before or has, had this opportunity. And a lot of it was made through, the federal laws that came from, the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law. And these were like big federal investments that were just kind of once in a lifetime sort of opportunity. And we took it, and we were very fortunate and we got it. So we got it, accepted those grants, so we can finally start planting next year with these grants. We've also submitted grants for other applications, are the BPU CEP, which is an electric bike rebate program. We're hopefully might be able to get. We're still we submitted these, so we're still waiting to hear back. The DOE EECBG, which would be an energy efficient appliance rebate program that we would be doing as well. And then the grant that we're submitting tomorrow in partnership with SJC is the EPA CCBG, which is, 4 million is a lot of money. This grant is for like 20 million. So this would be even bigger of an impact. And this is just to do so many different sustainability initiatives, obviously planting trees and more green infrastructure, a moss wall. And that would be really game changer too. So we're taking every opportunity we can to make sure we get the money, to make sure we're making these right investments to make our communities more resilient for the future. We all know here, we're all here tonight because we love trees. We want to make sure that we're planting trees because trees are so important in areas where there's extreme heat. They provide shade, they provide clean air, and they also absorb so much rainwater when there's ever, super flooding events as well. So trees are great. We love them. And we're trying to make sure we get every opportunity we can to plant as many trees as possible. And then 2025 look ahead. So since I'm talking about those grants that we received, we have kind of starting a lot of different programs that we have never really had before, which is very exciting. Our office is growing. These are all programs that are kind of becoming my babies that I'm very proud of. And I'm very excited to see how they take off. I'm working with community organizations with a lot of these grant programs as well. So one of the things that mentioned it earlier is our Jersey City Community Forestry Management Plan, which is kind of state regulated. Municipalities by the state DEP have to make sure that they have a community forestry management plan. We're due to update ours for next year. So we are working, we're going to be actually doing an RFP. So we get a contractor to help us create a new management plan. We're going to be working with our community organizations to kind of make sure we have the robust, forestry plan. And that's going to be kind of our guiding star with kind of urban forestry. Like how there's the other plans that I mentioned earlier, this will be kind of one that's focused on urban forestry. We currently have one, but every few years, every I think 4 or 5 years, we kind of have to update it. So it's our time to update it. And we want to make sure it's, it's good, it's up to date, and we're doing the most innovative work we can with urban forestry.
All right, so it's a 5-year plan because of the pandemic. It's not been updated since 2015.
Okay, yes, you're correct. Yeah, we were due to update in the middle of the that's why it felt longer. In my head, I was like, it feels like so long since we've done it.
It's also because it wasn't the Forest Service had changed the guidelines and how they wanted these to be structured. So they took a lot of time pushing people's need to update back because they were still getting their what they required in order. They didn't know how they wanted to do it. And so that actually last year, they just finished that. And so now this year is when they're starting to make people recertify with new guidelines. So that's kind of why that's been pushed back.
Yeah, and it's exciting because there's a lot more, I think, transparency in it. For example, we were a couple of cycles into, you weren't here then, Mike, but no one in the city, if you move from division to division or department to department, no one even knew that we had a community forestry management plan. And one of the new guidelines is that this is something that lives within the city's master plan so that it's recognized and it's not, aspirational, but it's a real business planning document. So those two things alone are game changers.
Yeah. Another game changer is we are getting a tree management software. We currently have a tree canopy of about 17,000 trees in the public right of way. That does not include, private property. So Mike has to manage 17,000 trees.
That doesn't include parks, does it?
It does include some of the parks. Yeah, it does include Lincoln.
Question now because I'm trying to figure out where is the hand to raise. To ask a question, I couldn't find it. Sorry to interrupt your presentation.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Oh, yes, Deborah. Actually, I did put it in the chat. I didn't want to disturb the conversation now for the spokesman. But I was requesting if he could put the website there. I mean, I don't know most of you guys' website as well. I tried to navigate, I couldn't get it. Sorry.
Yeah, I can put it at the end of the when I'm done presenting. I'll put in our website
Thank you so
on
much.
there. Yeah, no
Appreciate it.
problem.
So did you say that, I think there were 2 or 3 parks that Davey inventoried? Are you saying the 17,000 includes a few parks, but not all of the parks in Jersey City?
Yeah, it doesn't include like Lincoln Park or Liberty State Park, which obviously have the most trees.
So it doesn't
know-
include the county parks or the state parks. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it also includes all of the cities, Jersey
Yeah,
City.
it doesn't include. It
It
doesn't
does.
include.
It doesn't
all-
include like
include
most of
all-
the parks. I think there was
Yeah,
a
so
couple
Right,
parks they
exactly.
did, but they didn't do
Yeah.
Hamilton Park, for example. But I know Megan has an inventory of Hamilton Park. Not to mention, I can inventory a park with no problem once we have the software. So you know, but yeah, most of the parks were not included.
Right.
Yeah, and then so yeah, it's not a complete tree inventory. But yes, so but having this sort of software will make definitely my job and Mike's job a lot easier. You know, Mike and I have two kind of different responsibilities. I'm kind of in charge of the trees for the first 2 years. We help, you know, I'm in charge of where the trees get planted. But once the trees are past a 2-year guarantee from our contractor, you know, that they're survived and they're doing well, Mike is then in charge of taking care of these trees. And this sort of software will help us, you know, identify the tree and be able to assess it, be able to kind of like give it a grade, like if it's good, fair, or poor. And then Mike is able to, you know, better manage like which trees are in poor condition, you know, they're sick, they have to be taken care of. You know, trees that might be like unfortunately at the end of their lives and they have to, you know, be taken down. So this will be a great program to kind of, you know, where we're also interested in having it like be public, you know, for a way to like residents can look at a tree condition as well. Like, you know, we're not just like picking and choosing which trees get cut down, you know, there's a method to it. And this is a software that will help us greatly manage it. And just like what Mike is saying, you know, once we have this management software, you know, any city hall employee that learns how to use it can be able to assess a tree, you know, correctly and be able to upload that information right away. You know, we'll have one of our city's foresters out with a pad being able to like plug in this information and then it gets uploaded to kind of to the inventory. So it's really great. This is kind of how a lot of cities are managing their inventory. So their tree canopy. So this is our way of, you know, doing what a lot of other cities are doing.
So I want to add what we're
Yeah.
doing. Andrew is working with the sustainability division and the forestry division, and we haven't mapped out a process for this, but the city has asked SJC to map the tree inventory and create a community dashboard. So the community can tune in and see where trees are and aren't, a lot of detail information that would be available. So folks can basically access information about the tree canopy fairly readily. So
Mhm.
that's a project that's also an add-on to this, right?
Yeah, that's definitely something we'd be able to work on, you know, like, and especially we have data scientists with the city that would be able to help us with it. But yeah, no, that would be like, you know, because we all know, you know, everyone here is, you know, we all love trees, you know, so this would be a great tool that we're able to, you know, people are able to like look at a tree and, you know, like, kind of see what trees, how healthy they are, what sort of condition they are on their block. So it'd be a really great tool for that. The next one, plant green corridors along MLK and surrounding areas. So kind of what I was referencing earlier with some of those grants that we received, we're going to be planting like over 100 trees along MLK and then surrounding areas, which would be great because if you ever drive down MLK Drive, it's like a 2-mile stretch and there's barely any trees there. And especially in that whole area, like they experience lots of urban heat islands. So we're going to be kind of creating these, you know, street long block initiatives and, you know, planting kind of, there's certain blocks in that area where there's like no trees at all. So we're going to be, going there, walking the streets, doing what we do where we survey, we figure out what trees get planted there. And it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I believe
Um,
I showed Deborah down Wegman Parkway how tree bare it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we so early on,
Mhm.
Andrew and I were tooling this. SJC kicked off Green Corridors program with the idea that we should put schools in touch with trees and then use tree-lined streets to connect schools and green spaces with each other. So not far from where Gladys lives, we're actually trying to do a Green Corridors program off of MLK on Stegman. So we did a little runabout to kind of survey the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity. Andrew was talking about a method to the madness. So these connectivity corridors with a focus on equity across all neighborhoods so that there aren't these gaping areas in the city where there are no trees. And by the way, didn't you mention 260 trees are going to be planted along MLK? The other
I think so we still have to survey the whole stretch of MLK. So the exact amount, but we have funding to plant over 260 trees on MLK or the surrounding areas. So,
all right.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then with all of the grant funding, in the back over here, even with the community development block grant from US HUD, all of that, we're going to be able to plant just for grant funding alone, plant over 600 trees next year, which last year we planted the most amount of trees while I worked here. And it was like, I think 250 or something like that, maybe 280. Actually maybe more 300, but anyway, it's way bigger. That's why we're hiring more staff, to help us, help us manage this, because it's a huge investment that we're making. So, and we also, once we plant them, we want to make sure they live. So there's, going to be a lot of other opportunities to do, make sure the trees are taken care of. So, what is it? The next established urban forestry workforce development program. So one of the other exciting programs that we're coming from this grant funding is we're going to be creating a urban forestry workforce development program. And this comes in many different shapes and sizes. One of them is like training up our own staff that we have in forestry. Mike can talk more about it, but like Mike has made sure that his staff, are getting trained to properly prune trees, making sure that they have they're best equipped to make sure to take care of our trees. So we can have the best, urban forestry staff here in Jersey City. Another element that we're trying to do is teach residents in the neighborhoods that we're planting trees in, how to take care of trees, how to have a job and a career in urban forestry, and then potentially hire them to work in our urban forestry crew. So we're able to hire and train, a few residents that live in that area, give them a job, give them employment, and they can have a career in urban forestry. And then also we want to be able to teach our young folks, give them paid opportunities to be our tree ambassador leads, where they can help, facilitate, tree care workshops, learn, everything you need, use our software data to upload tree information once after we plant them. There's going to be very great and robust, and it comes in many different shapes and sizes. So we're still learning, we're still kind of figuring that out, exactly how that looks. But by 2025, we're looking to have a more concrete actual program. And yes, and then that goes into the tree ambassador program, which we're trying to do. We're also planning for 2025 to implement, which will be, there's a lot of residents across the city that want to make sure our trees survive and taken care of. And there's always the question that they always ask me is, what can I do? How do I mulch the tree? What can I do? And we're trying to create a tree ambassador program where residents who are very passionate can, get the equipment, learn how to, possibly prune a tree, how to make sure you break the soil mulch around a tree bed. So then we can do these street long community engagement activities where residents can come together, clean the tree pit, make sure the tree is looking well, and just maintain it well, and then mulch it, water it, take care of it. And that's another program we're looking to start for next year too.
So this is modeled off of trees and trash, right?
Yes.
Would it be all right if I asked a quick question?
Sure.
I'm just wondering, it seems like this suggestion that I have would fit right into some of these grant activities. I mean, some of the best ways to preserve some of our existing healthy mature trees, which are our current like workhorses of carbon sequestration and such, as all these wonderful trees that you're planting take time to mature. One of the best ways to protect our mature trees would be to allocate some grant money towards proactively expanding some of the mature the tree pits around our good mature trees, and perhaps also installing what are they called? The barriers that
Like
help
tree
protect
guards?
soil compaction. If
Yeah,
we
tree
could,
guards.
my understanding is that there's no funding to do that when it's for street trees that are in front of homes. I mean, what do you think about that? Could we put some money aside for that, or work it into your tree ambassador program? But again, where's the money going to come from to do it?
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because when, you walk down the street and you see a huge, massive tree and they have the tiniest little space to grow from, and they like have the sidewalk all broken up, no one's happy seeing that. So, we definitely, and we are able to remove cement, but it is exactly what you're brought up. Is just like the funding aspect of it as well. We have to kind of assess it. That is something that we're going to have to work in-house to kind of develop what approach we want to exactly do. But
So
I do agree with you
Natalie,
that is like,
directly to your question, the grant funding that Andrew has applied for and has gotten has very strict guidelines on what you could spend the money on, and expanding tree beds around existing trees is not something that he could spend that money on.
What about the tree guards, or what are they called?
On new plantings, they could do that. So like new tree beds and new tree guards, that's totally fine. But adding tree guards to existing tree beds is not something they can spend that money on.
Yeah, but for all new tree plantings, especially on MLK and on the busy corridors where there's a lot of foot traffic, we do have a line item for tree guards, and they are part of the budget equation. So we are especially on MLK, we are going to be having tree guards. And any sort of, that's the best practice. We want to have tree guards on the most traffic.
I commend that. I guess that's still why our group kind of exists, is because we feel like we're not doing enough to help extend the life of the healthy, mature trees we have left. And if we look at the science, it's really important we do so. But I do think that everything that you're doing is really, really, really wonderful, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, and however, we can collaborate in the future too, because
actually, I was going to interrupt. Sorry, I was not going to interrupt, but I really wanted to know who to contact if we are interested for the training, as you were mentioning. Please let us know.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. So actually, most of the people, if they can please put their email address from my side, I'm requesting, because I am not getting even Deborah's sustainability JC. I would like to know if they can, please, if possible. But yes, I'm interested to know about this program also for the training. Thanks.
Yeah, and these are all programs that are going to be ran out of this Division of Sustainability, so my office. So at the end of the presentation, which is just the next slide, I have my contact information. So it has my email address, and those are all things that you can reach out to me. We can continue this conversation. And once we start, these programs are finalized, the city's going to be blasting it, sharing it on our social media. We're going to be emailing folks. So, and we're going to be working with a lot of other local organizations like SJC to help us, advertise this sort of program.
And this meeting is being recorded in addition to the Eventbrite page where you registered. The recording will be posted there, but we've created a playlist for urban forestry on SJC's YouTube channel. So what we'll do is capture what people have shared in the chat as a separate file. So this PowerPoint, Andrew, if you can share it with me so I can post it. right? So there'll be the recording, there'll be the PowerPoint, and then there'll be the information that's available in the chat, publicly posted. And you could always resource it, right? So if you don't get to the Eventbrite page, you could look it up on SJC's playlist under urban forestry. So it will
Cool.
live on forever.
Great. I love that. Yeah, and just the last part that I just want to talk on is, you know, create more green curb extensions. Like, so what you see, the photo on the right, you know, is, and what I was talking about earlier, just curb extensions with some green infrastructure to help with water retention and also filtering our water before they go out into our waterways. So yeah, those are kind of the big things we're doing for 2025. You know, yeah. And I think that's it. That's the end of my little spiel. So yeah, there's my contact information. There's their phone number, which is just our general office line, and then there's my email. So we can continue this conversation, you know.
How do you think funding will be affected with this new administration coming in that does not believe in climate change or sustainability? Do you think it will affect your initiative in some ways?
The federal, yeah. I mean, it could. A lot of, you know, those are kind of always the first questions I've asked when we've had conversations with. So a lot of these grants we got are all federal grants for the most part. There's like, there's like one that's state. The federal grants, you know, I've asked, like, are these things that can, you know, because I applied for these grants like last year, and it took all of this year to kind of accept it. It's a very long, strenuous process to kind of, you know, you want to, the government doesn't just give out a blank check. So you have to make sure you go through all, you know, there's a lot of like legal review, blah, blah, blah. Those are, since they have earmarked, since these grants have been earmarked, there's no way that, at least what I've been told, that they can be pulled back because they've already been earmarked. Is basically like the money has already been kind of spent theoretically. So, but I don't know. This is like one of those things that I'm like, I still like, when that's why we're able to start planting in 2025. Like, I want to spend all this money right away.
Yeah.
You know, because like, God forbid, you know, like the next administration, it might be kind of crazy with, you know, who knows. So,
right.
So, but yeah, I share that concern as well. But I think they said it's earmarked. So, you know, and they told us just spend the money quickly as possible. The one grant we have is for 5 years. So, we'll see, you know, but yeah, we're going to put the money as good use as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do folks have questions? We usually go anywhere between an hour and an hour and a half, depending on Q&A. But questions for both Andrew, and thank you very much, Andrew. That was comprehensive, short, and to the point. But we also have, you know, Mike, the forester, on the line. Do people have other things on their mind, taking advantage of these two extraordinary workhorses?
I have a couple of questions. One is, in terms of the approach to tree planting, and excuse me, I applaud the idea of doing a corridor. The approach to tree planting has in the past focused mostly on somebody requests a tree, they get a tree, and it doesn't make for it's almost like asking for a piece of jewelry. And if you really want to reduce, to create a beautiful city, you want to kind of approach major streets. You know, I look at Palisade Avenue, and of course we won't talk about Central Avenue, but you know, just a comprehensive look at the major or minor commercial streets, and you know, not asking people whether they want a tree, but saying this is our goal, and to really create a green corridors everywhere, and regardless of whether somebody wants their tree. And I wondered if there was like kind of a change philosophically Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Mike,
oh,
yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, the thing is, it's like so definitely with these grant funds, we're just gonna be doing city block plantings, and there's while we definitely do requested tree programs, that doesn't mean that every tree that we plant are outside people's homes who want trees. There are people,
Right.
requesting trees for streets that have no trees on them. And, it's usually myself or Carlos, our new tree forester, or Mike in the past, and Amanda fielding the calls back at the office that we have to do a lot of education with residents about trees. Because, this is a space where we're all the biggest tree leaders, but there's a lot of still education where people think of trees as like, they're going to have to maintain it themselves. Like the tree is going to affect pollen, a list of all different reasons. So when we have limited resources to plant trees in our tree plant, like our regular already operating tree planting program, how we see it is, we don't want to just do it just by tree request, because it's all going to be the residents that are probably, like they know more about trees and their benefits. And we see that we end up planting mostly in like the Heights and in downtown. And that's not the best approach either. But also like it's kind of a balancing act where it's like we want to, kind of, because if we then don't plant those trees, the people are like, I had this request for 2 years and you've never done anything about it. And, like, so there's some of that. And then also we got to like plant in the neighborhoods that need it, that don't have any trees. Those are like in Ward A and Ward F. And then we're like out there fighting them about, like why it's important for the tree. And especially coming into that that neighborhood and being like, hey, I'm trying to like improve this for you, is sometimes like it's just like you have to build trust in that community. And that's why I think we'll be able to do more of that after this grant project, because here we are with these programs and we're building connections with these residents in this neighborhood, and we're kind of like building that trust that we need in order to like start doing these once they kind of we're kind of like the new kids on the block. I see the division of sustainability, and we're kind of having to build a trust. We're able to do that with you folks. I like to think you guys trust us. This is a safe space for us. But like there are other people in the city that have no idea what we're doing, and we have to educate them, and we kind of have to like build that trust. So we're in order to like plant the trees and they don't hate them, because then the trees can survive better. If like we plant in front of a home and the residents hate them, they're going to have their dogs using it for the bathroom. They're going to put their trash on it, and the tree's going to end up dying. So there was a long spiel, but I hope it made some sort of sense about kind of our approach and our strategy. And I think once we're making the proper investments in these communities, we would be able to like do more just street planting in those areas, because that's where it's actually needed. So
yeah, and I just want to jump in on for Andrew's sake and say the philosophy, I would say, or the perspective has changed. So like the form that they have now is open. Like you don't have to prove that you live at the address that you're requesting from. So hypothetically, you can request an address nowhere near where you live, and they will look at it and try to plant it. It is the city right away, so the city does have the right to put it in if they want to. But frankly, the funds that sustainability has to plant is so low that like they don't even have enough to cover requests, let alone like planting initiatives, or we're talking about green corridors. I mean, you could walk down almost any block in Jersey City and find 15 to 20 planting locations, and they're only planting 80 in a whole season. They need a higher budget. They need more money. Planting costs have gone up, obviously. The last contract before the new one that they just got was bid in 2018. So they were working off of 2018 prices up until last year. And so the costs have almost, not quite, but almost doubled. And the budget has actually shrunk a little bit. I think they were originally at a $560,000 planting budget. Now it's $500,000 planting budget. So that needs to be exponentially increased if they want to be able to keep up just enough to maintain the canopy, let alone grow it. And so yes, the philosophy and the perspective has changed in terms of like we want to plant for a greater vision for the city, and understanding that trees as a resource are beneficial citywide, and it's not about whose home it's in front of or whatever. But at the same time, it's like they're only planting 80 trees anyway. So are you going to impose trees upon people that don't want them and ignore the people that do want them? that's the juggling act that Andrew's working with. And it's really great that they got these grants, and we're talking about all this money that they have for planting next year. And it's going to look really impressive when they put 600 or 700 trees in the ground next year. But really, the city should not rely upon Andrew being able to find grants. And, again, a lot of these grants were federal, and we have a new administration in the federal government now. Is Andrew going to be able to repeat that every year? Of course not. So the city needs to take planting trees as a piece of green infrastructure seriously and fund it seriously. And any grants Andrew can gin up is extra, and that's great. And then we're really doing a great job. But it shouldn't be, oh, well, we planted a lot, but only because we got federal grants. And when we don't get federal grants, we're not going to plant anything.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, the city should be investing, much, much, much more money into tree planting, into green infrastructure, into bioswales, into other things. But I think it, again, this is my opinion. It needs to come from the top, because if you're trying to sell trees to a community, it's different than if the administration has a vision for greening the city and articulates it and puts money behind that, and puts some real resources and funding behind it. And that's what, I think if I can speak for this entire group of people, we should be advocating for. And I don't know exactly how to do it, but not that I can speak for everyone, but I'd like to implore everyone to sort of get some real money behind green infrastructure, and specifically planting.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer. Like you said at the end there, I don't know how to do it. I don't have the answer either. But what I do like to recommend people do is, reach out to your council people, say, listen, the people at Sustainability are doing a great job, but they don't have enough money. They need more funding to do more of the great work they're doing. And then we have a mayoral election coming up next year, and the administration is going to change. So maybe lobbying the different candidates and letting them know that this is an important issue for you, and you want to have them promise that they're going to increase that budget. Get them to say maybe they're going to double it or something. I mean, I think that would be a great way to.
I think it needs to be more than doubled. I mean,
Well,
personally,
And
if you want to ask for $1
you're
million
probably
full,
not
great.
going to get it out of the operating budget, so the city could bond for it and put it
Yeah.
into, planning for capital improvement projects on
Yeah.
a
Oh, yeah.
large, on
When
a
I-
larger scale at the top of the priority list.
Yeah, before I worked in Jersey City, I was the planting forester for Manhattan, and our planting contracts were all capitally funded, and I had $5 million to plant just
There
on
you
the
go.
eastern side of Manhattan. So if we
There
could
you
get
go.
1 million just for the whole city of Jersey City, we'd be in a lot better shape than we are today. I had 5 million to plant half of Manhattan. So if we could at least get a little bit more, that would be wonderful. And yeah, it would be happily funded. Absolutely, 100%.
well,
I have a question related to some pots of money, Andrew, Mike. There's and it's a sneaky way to do it, but I want to put it out on the table. I keep putting it out on the table. Andrew and I have spoken about this privately. That the Jersey City Open Space Fund, which all homeowners contribute to, right, has a focus on park improvements, but there's been a number of occasions, and I believe the last disbursement out of that is, not rather recent. But if it's possible to expand the footprint of a park to include the streets surrounding the park on the perimeter, to use that fund to plant park perimeter trees on the street. Has there been some discussion about using that fund to do that? And if not, can there be some discussion by the Sustainability Office, Andrew, to speak with, and I think it's Mira who chairs that committee and manages that fund? That's it's a little bit of a can of worms because it's not transparent. Right? But it is a pot of money that's sitting there. And if street trees could be planted and stretch the
the perimeter of the park.
the reach of it, It could be
Yeah.
on streets around I mean, that's
Yeah.
a big deal. I think the rules
No,
of the
absolutely.
road for that fund could be stretched.
That's like one of the things that we just need to have a conversation with our law department on, and it's worth exploring. Like I'm in the camp of just however we're able to get the funds to just plant more trees. It's like, I'm open-minded towards that. So, but it is something that we just need to kind of we need to start having conversations with the folks in the city who do know the answer to that. So, but that is a
Right.
good idea.
Yeah, and I think there's a few I could be mistaken, but I think there's upwards of $1 million there,
I think so too. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's an opportunity. TBD.
I think I saw Katie had her hand raised.
As does Carol.
Yeah.
Thanks. You answered some of my question because I know that the funding is so lacking, but my question is really whether it's worth reporting anyway. So there's some places that seem to have had trees that unfortunately aren't doing well or are dying, and other places where there was a tree and it looks cut down. And is it beneficial for you to have that mapped, or perhaps, Deb, this is what SJC is going to do with some of the mapping? Because my initial question was going to be, can I request for them all to be replaced? But I understand we're resource limited.
Yeah, 100%. And I also always say, like, it's always good to have a request because it's in a form that we're able to we're able to pull all the information out. We're able to update it. It's just like a really great tool. So I always recommend everyone to fill out a requested tree, even if for example, like the person earlier tonight was asking about 83 Fairview. Like, I'm going to go to work tomorrow and I'm going to put in the form myself for there just because it's easy to document. It's like a way for us to track. So I encourage, and Mike always lets me know where there's trees that are cut down, because and also in my head, I'm like, wherever there's trees that are cut down, like, people are going to be open to it because oh, there used to be a tree there anyway. So it makes sense that they just planted it again, if we can, with our forestry standards. But I definitely encourage, you to fill out one of those forms for a tree that gets cut down.
And the same thing for tree guards. I think I heard that the funding is not available for existing trees to get tree guards. Yeah. Okay. See, not all right.
Yeah. It's we could, but it's also it's just, we have such a small budget, and
Understood. More trees is more important than.
So I don't know exactly what Andrew's contracts costs are per linear foot of tree guard, and that's how we bill it. But when I was in Manhattan, and we're going back to 2020 or so, it costs just as much to put the tree guard in as it did to put the tree in. So for every tree guard they put in, that's one less tree they plant. And, in certain areas that makes sense, because I know they did a planting on Tunnelly Avenue. I forget how many trees it was, but if you don't put tree guards on those trees, they're going to die. So in that case, you want to protect your investment. So it makes sense in certain areas. And as the funds increase, maybe they could expand those areas. But they definitely are going to have to focus on putting that money towards tree planting until they get more funds. And then another thing is, when I worked in Manhattan, a lot of times we would get tree guard funding specifically from council people allocating what they call participatory budget funding, which is every year the administration gave them, $50,000, and they had their community come and they had a meeting, and they said, well, what do you want us to spend this funds on? And people would say tree guards in Manhattan. And so I would get, $50,000 from the councilman in CB8, Community Board 8, and they would say, we want tree guards on trees on 2nd Avenue. And so I would go out and put tree guards just from that budget funding. So there probably has to be other ways of budgeting it that aren't just directly out of their planting budget. It is something you have to weigh. Is it worth putting a tree guard here versus planting a tree somewhere else? It's something that they have to think about. But right now, like I said, they can afford to plant 80 trees this season. That's very low. That's I'm probably removing more than that a year than they're planting. So that's not great.
Thank you both.
To that point, SJC is asking the mayoral candidates if they would bring back the participatory budgeting pilot program that was very successful in 2022, to the extent that 5 of the 6 wards all wanted trees. I mean, it was kind of unanimous in how people wanted to lean in around that $50,000 bill. So that was the vote of the public. What I want to do before we sign off, I'm going to quickly show something here. If I share, we've started to, your question, Katie, SJC has started to map, and we're going to continue to do this. This is a preliminary dashboard that can be found on SJC's website under the Learning Center, and there's a maps tab there. So this is the Davy tree inventory, Mike, that was sent to us at the end of last year after Davy completed that inventory.
Yeah,
And
I
this-
work off of that every day.
Yeah.
Ken, sorry.
Yeah, so to the extent that this is like a teaser, you know, what Amanda has asked us to do is to build out a story map for the public and a dashboard. So I want to coordinate with you and Andrew to do that so we can have more conversation about it.
Yeah. Yeah. We can definitely do that. That's no problem. I just want to acknowledge Carol's question.
Carol, you have a
Carol?
question?
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so just a couple of thoughts. One, I just wanted your opinion. I guess, Mike, you might know about this. It seems like there's a new trend in doing something called pocket forests. You know,
Microforests.
Microforests, so on. What's your thought on that?
They're great. They're amazing. We are currently actively working with Suji Forests to do something like that. We included it in our funding for it in our the grant application I mentioned earlier that was like for 20 million. The EPA's community change grant. So we're all for it. The biggest trouble with in Jersey City is just finding space for it. It is even as a municipal worker, trying to find free municipal space to store trees when we plant them is a struggle. So one of the things we had to do was find a location for this microforest, and the space for it is just very limited. I know there was talks about it potentially being at Skyway Park, but then you would have to fund Skyway Park, and Skyway Park is also a Superfund site that's currently capped. So it's just like it adds this whole other layer of like it's just very complicated. So, but we are very interested in it. We have funding. We want to make like 3 of them, but we do have some locations in mind. But yeah, we love that.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. The other thought I also wanted to just bring up, the subject of developers. You know, the fact that they do cut down trees to build up their buildings. And, just wanted some clarity on what oversight do we have over what developers are doing? And what recourse do we have to sort of encourage them not to cut the trees down?
So that's a multifaceted question. So in some cases they reach out and they get a permit, and there's a good reason why they have to take the tree down, like whatever it may be, whatever the work is that's going to lead to the death of the tree anyway, that can't be avoided. They pay us. We have since I got here, we in the last iteration of the forestry standards for 2023, we had introduced a new restitution model where basically we work off of something very similar to what New York City does, which is trunk area formula, which basically is a fancy way of saying you take the size of the big tree that's coming out and then you divide how many small trees can go into it, and that's kind of what they owe, and then you deduct based upon condition and species and such. But so some cases the developer's doing the right thing and they're getting a permit, and unfortunately a tree has to come down, but they have a zoning or planning requirement where they're going to plant every 25 feet, and they still have to pay for the value of the tree that they're removing as well. So we actually end up making good on that, and that's great. Other times, a developer will do something, and if no one sees it or no one's paying attention, it goes amiss. Unfortunately, the planning board and the zoning board are directly involved with that. And for a long time, like was brought up very early in this meeting today, there was no forester or sustainability office in Jersey City whatsoever. So for years, these departments and stuff have been kind of working where, well, there's nobody looking at this, so we're not going to concern ourselves with it. And now we're coming in, we're trying to enforce rules upon them. I just recently was able to get the planning people to give me an account on Tyler, which is like an acronym for the city's planning, where all the planning reviews go into, which is great. But that's only, planning only deals with 30% of all development applications that come in. Zoning actually handles the other 2/3 of the city. So like I need to figure out a way to get involved with them. And then the other part of it is like, it's one thing to look at a plan and say you're going to do something, but then after it's done, who's looking at it and making sure that it matches what the plan was agreed to. As of right now, and it's kind of weird and esoteric, but the way I understand it is that there's like a building inspector that goes out, and that person doesn't know the difference between an oak and a cherry or a pear tree. They don't know what the tree bed's probably supposed to look like, I'm assuming. Maybe that's not a fair assumption, but I do drive around Jersey City quite a bit, and I see stuff that doesn't make sense and I would never have approved. So I'm assuming that they don't really know what they're looking at, right? So like we would have to be involved, whether it's forestry or it's sustainability, because they have arborists on staff as well, either or both of us maybe. We have to, number one, be on, all right, this is the plan before anything happens and we agree to it and it makes sense. And then the second part of it is like, all right, you've done the work now, does this match your plan and is this what we want? Because really the only enforcement you have at that point, if it was something that the planning department let go and they agreed to it and no one ever looked at it, is they basically either planning or zoning has to not issue a CO, which is a certificate of occupancy, meaning like you can't occupy the building until you correct this. So like, there was an instance not that long ago where this person was going to put a driveway in and there was a mature tree on the site. And I just happened to be driving by and saw the construction going on near the tree. And I reached out to zoning and I'm like, they can't put a driveway here. The tree's right there. You're going to have to go over its root system. And they were like, well, it was approved already, so and at that point, basically what I was told is like, my recourse would be when they start to do the work, they're going to hit roots. And when they do that, because they didn't get a permit from me, I can then send code compliance out. But that's kind of really roundabout and doesn't really solve the problem, because now the damage has already been done. And we have to seek damages in court at that point, because the maximum municipal fine that can be levied for a code violation is $2,000. My restitution method usually values trees over a certain size and much more than that. For example, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. I'm talking fast. I apologize, but I want to get a lot in here, and I know we're getting late.
This is great, Mike. Thank you.
There was a tree like last week, actually. There's a tree in a construction, like basically they're redoing the streets on Randolph. And I think it's 164 Randolph. I forget the address off the top of my head, but this is like a 46-inch DBH American elm tree. That's, if you estimated the age, it's about 185 years old. And the thing is in really good condition. And PSE&G wanted to run, they have to run a new power line. They have to up the voltage on this corridor. And they wanted to run it right through the center of that tree. And they basically were like, well, let us take the tree out. We'll give you 2 trees as a replacement. And I said, absolutely not. This tree's worth at least 16 trees. And my restitution value for that tree alone was over $60,000. And so when I told them that, they were like, okay, let's go back to the engineers and come up with a different thing. And they just said, you know what, we're going to put 2 poles on the left side of the street, run the wire across the street around the tree and save the tree. So that's great. That's a big win, but
that's huge.
That is huge. But had they moved ahead, let's say they never came to me and they just said, we're taking this tree out, we got to run our line, and they did it. My recourse would then be to say code compliance. They cut a tree without a permit, issue them a summons. That's a $2,000 fine. And then anything beyond that, they would have to seek in superior court, which is like basically a lawsuit. And then it's up to a judge, it's up to, prosecutors and all this other kind of stuff. And I may never see that money. I mean, right now, when someone issues a check to me for restitution, it goes into a fund that I have. I can't access it, but we're working right now with the new NJDEP ordinance that's going to probably pass in the near future. We're going to have a tree fund out of that somehow. So we're working to try and get that. And once I start collecting checks, that will go directly into a fund that can only be used to replant trees or do tree maintenance. So that amount of money should really be going back into replenishing the canopy. And we didn't really talk about that DEP ordinance tonight, which I thought we were going to, but just to throw that out there, these are all the different kind of moving parts to that. So back to your question about developers and what kind of recourse do we have? If they do it the right way, if they have to take the tree out, I say, okay, you got to give me the check. They have to plant the trees based upon the forestry standards, so they replace them, but they also pay us a value. That money should go into a tree fund that would go to replenishing the neighborhood of more trees, and that would be great. Sometimes developers do things they're not supposed to do, and if it doesn't get caught, I'm relying on people either reaching out and saying, hey, this tree was cut down, why was it cut down? And then I have to get code compliance to issue summonses and sue them if the tree was worth more than $2,000.
Mike, is it run by you? For instance, Devin shared a photograph, which, a huge old mature tree. I couldn't tell, what kind of tree it was that was cut down in Hamilton Park, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yes, I cut that down.
Okay, so you cut that down because
the top of it had decay all throughout the main stem, up from the trunk all the way up to the top of it. And silver maples are notorious for breaking out. And we had numerous storm events in that park. All the silver maples in that park are about the same age, and they're pretty much aging out at this point. So that one had decay in the main stem over the dog run and the main path and the tennis court. So I elected to remove it.
Okay, great. So you get involved with that.
That was me completely. I inspected it. I met with the people that like Megan and the different people that do the park coalition there, and I had my contractor come in and remove that tree. I think that was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so you have your hands on park trees also.
Yeah, 100%.
Question.
How old was that one, Mike?
Have lantern flies been an issue at all this year?
So I'm glad you brought that up because it's tangentially related. I'm going to segue into the thing I wanted to mention about that. First off, I have a great thing on the Jersey City Forestry webpage about spotted lanternfly if everybody wants to read about it. Spotted lanternfly this year was actually really muted, and it's been like that a couple of years now. And there's a couple reasons. Number one, I think some of the native birds and stuff are starting to realize they're really good eating and they're easy to catch because they're a pretty dumb bug. They don't move too much. They're easy to I'm sure you've seen if you ever stepped on one. They're pretty easy to kill. So I think they're
getting smarter.
Yeah, I think the native wildlife's realizing that this bug is good protein and I don't have to work too hard to get it. But also they are migratory. So like they'll hit an area real hard and then they'll kind of move on and then they'll cycle back around. All that being said, the spotted lanternfly from a tree perspective is really not that big of a concern. It can be a stressor on trees, and in urban spaces that's not great, but they're never going to kill a tree. They feed heavily upon certain species and leave other ones kind of alone. The native species that is most concerning to me in terms of what they do is the red maple. That's the biggest tree that we have that they tend to hit pretty hard. Last year we got a grant from NJDEP through the Parks Department it was $17,000, and it was for managing the spotted lanternfly. So we ended up, sorry about that, I'm outside, I have cars here. We ended up spending that on Davy Resource Group came through and treated 250 small caliper red maples because we figured that was the most valuable tree that was going to be hit, and the small trees were going to be the most damaged by it. But frankly, they're not a big concern in terms of tree health. And so we got another grant, and it was, instead of 1 year, 17 grand, it was 3 years, 20 grand. And what I'm holding off on spending that. I have until the end of 2026 to spend that. I'm going to wait until I have staff that can do in-house treatments, which we're very close to. I have somebody that's capable of doing it. They're taking the test. They're going to be pretty soon able to apply different applications or fertilizers, et cetera, on their own in-house. I'm going to use that money to try and buy equipment, and I will treat spotted lanternfly for it probably once. And then after that, I'm going to use it for a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's kind of my plan right now. But yeah, spotted lanternfly, it was really they're nasty and they're not great, but they're more of a threat to agricultural crops, which is not a big deal in Jersey City. They're not so much a tree pest that is very detrimental to trees.
Mike, as we wind down a little bit here, could you talk about, we've invited Mike to Community Forestry Matters, the new series SJC is co-hosting with the Hudson County Tree Allies in December. It's the second Monday evening of every month. It starts a little earlier than this, 6:30. Mike is going to come and give a talk. Mike, why don't you talk about what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, so before I had locked into coming tonight, I had thought, I got to prepare something to present. And right now we're in a severe drought. So I thought that would be a great topic to talk about tonight. basically, we haven't had rain in a very long time. The governor and the Forest Service has just declared New Jersey in severe drought conditions. Basically, just means we're very, drought is very bad here. So I'll probably talk about that, the effects of drought on trees, and then specifically how urban trees are more heavily impacted by weather events such as drought than their natural area counterparts. And that's kind of what I was going to talk about. And I'll bring that, next time you have a talk, I'd be happy to bring that because I already prepared it.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then we have more of you. So
Yes.
the more we can access you and dialogue, the better.
Yeah, I had a whole thing I was going to talk about, about my crew and, what were all the trainings we did this year, but I'm glad Andrew was able to take the brunt of that, and I'll save that for next time.
Yeah, perfect. So that second Monday is that the 12th, Natalie? I think that second Monday is the 9th of December. So put that on your calendar, Mike. It's Monday, December 9th. Mike is coming back. He's going to do talk. So you're all welcome.
I'm going to forget until you send me the email, and I'll be like, oh crap, I remember I said I would do that.
No problem. We'll post about it. So thank you. Anybody else have last minute questions here for Mike or for Andrew? This was great.
Appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very nice. Everybody have a good evening. Catch you the next time.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Andrew. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mike.
Andrew.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Mike.
Bye.
Good night.